Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeietchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome to everybody that is here with us in the chapel, for all of those joining us via the live stream on this very hot spring that feels like summer day. And to start out our service this evening, we'll welcome our B'nai Mitzvah families up to the bima. It's the parents of Yael and of Izzy to join us in lighting our Shabbat candles.
As we light these Shabbat candles, we link ourselves with the generations of our people who have kindled these holy flames. Time passes quickly, and we take this moment to pause and express our gratitude. We stand here as a family with humility and with love for this occasion, for one another, and for being a part of this sacred community. As we participate in this age-old ritual, we embrace this moment as we move forward in the cycle of our lives.
Yesterday we held our children in our arms, and tomorrow they will be called to the Torah as B'nai Mitzvah. These Shabbat candles remind us not only of the joy of this occasion, but they help us to see the light within one another and the strengths that each of us possesses. Grateful for all the precious gifts in our lives, we kindle the Shabbat lights.
Adonai, Eloheinu, melech haolam, asher kiddushanu, b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu, v'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. In this week's Torah portion, B'ha'alotecha, from which Yael and Izzy will chant tomorrow morning, we read about the construction of the golden menorah that sits in the tent of meeting. V'zeh ma'aseh hamenorah, and this was the way the lamp was constructed, pure gold hammered by hand into 7 branches with flower petals and a beautiful design. But here's the thing, menorah just means lamp. We have a concept called hidur mitzvah, beautifying the commandment. Not only are we instructed to do God's will, but to do so beautifully, to elevate our understanding and our sense of holiness. This Kabbalat Shabbat, let us beautifully enter this sacred space by raising our voices together in these holy words. Let's come together for Lechu Neranena on page 12. Let us sing unto God a new song. Let us sing out to God a new song. Lai lai da 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 da. Yai lai da 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 da. Sing out to God a new song. Let us sing unto God a new song. Lai da 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 da.
We'll continue with welcoming in Shabbat with L'chad Odi on page 20.
Amor v'zachor b'nibur echad ishmi'anu el hameyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad v'shem תהילה לך דודי לקראת כלה הנה שבת נקבלה לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת כלה הנה שבת נקבלה התעוררי התעוררי כי באורך ומאורי אורי אורי שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לך דודי לקראת כלה הנה שבת נקבלה בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצחול התוך אמונה עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה הנה שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה הנה שבת נקבלה
Turning ahead in our prayer books, page 145 for the Hatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה אמן ויעלמה דברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן.
We'll continue with Baruch Hu, and I'll invite you to please rise.
Yai dai dai yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai dai yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
We'll continue with the Hebrew, page 147, together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishaneh itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmirotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei hoshech, v'hoshech mipnei or.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המרהיב ערבים. אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, עמך אהבת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו ושוכבנו, קומנו נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ומצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו לאורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם בלילה, נגה יומם בלילה. באהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שכבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
We'll continue responsively, page 151. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all.
Yet that oneness eludes our grasp as imperfection and evil abound.
Before our eyes there is a vision of perfection, of order and goodness.
There is evil enough to break the heart, and there is good enough to exalt the soul.
When will redemption come?
When we grant to everyone what we claim for ourselves.
Long ago we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High.
We learned God's presence redeems time and event, so we celebrate this power that makes for freedom. Adonai mi kamocha ne'idar b'kodesh, mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha ne'idar b'kodesh. Nora מלכותך ראו בניך בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים. זה אלי אנו, זה אלי אנו, ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי ידע אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'ha'amidenu shomrenu l'chaim, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. You are true protection and safety, and in your presence we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth and prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours.
Baruch atah Adonai, ha'poreh sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
Page 155, we rise for the blessings of the Amidah.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Aboteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevii Geula livnei bneihem, L'ma'an Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Ata gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol, Ata rav lehoshia. Mechalkel chaim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim ve'rofech cholim, Umatir asurim. Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot umidol melach, melech memit umechayeh umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim bechol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
We are accustomed to this part of our worship when we turn from our familiar Shabbat prayers to pray for those who are ill and in need of healing. In a few moments, I will share some communal names and ask you to add your own. We will sing our words of blessing and take time to think of those people in our lives who hurt and hope that through our prayers they may be healed. While this is an expected and known part of our contemporary prayer service, its origin is even older than the first prayer book. The first prayer for healing takes place in the Bible, in this week's Torah portion, to be exact. When Miriam is struck with tzara'at, the white skin ailment thought to be leprosy, her brother Moses cries out to God in response. He says these words, El na rifana la. God, please heal her. The Hebrew word na here means please, making the phrase more precisely mean, please God, heal her.
Knowing the Hebrew here makes Moses' words come alive, letting us hear them as words of desperation from one sibling to another. This first moment of healing prayer becomes almost like a mantra, each word ending with that open ah sound, the sound made when we just breathe in and out. El na refa na la. Please, God, please heal all those who are in our world, who are ill, who are sick, who are hurt, who are in pain, and who are in need of healing. This Shabbat, we send our thoughts and our prayers to Cindy Baker, Erwin Baker, Maurice Clark, Ada Barbara Corvelli, Moshe Daniel, Marcy Goldsmith, Elliot Goldstein, Rick Gratt, Sheila Goldberg, Larry Hollander, Eliana Leora, Bat Shoshana Leah, Julie Levine, Naomi Batsara, Alan Rothfeder, David Rothman, Teresa Schlossberg, Phil Schlosser, Tammy Schwartzberg, Shmuel Ben Rivka, and Barry Suskind. To those names, we add others who might be on your mind, and if you're so inclined, you can feel free to share your name, that name of someone you're thinking about, and your relationship with that person as my hand meets your eyes throughout the congregation. Kathy? Judy, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Ellie. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Fred.
Jen Goldman and Judy Turk.
Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofeh Cholim. We praise you, Adonai, our God. We call you the healer of the sick. And we share in the words from this week's Torah portion our prayer for healing together.
El na refana la, El na refana la, El na refana la, refua shelema. El na refana la, El na refana la, El na refana la, refua shelema.
And from that healing of the body and the spirit, we pray for the healing of our communities, the healing of our world, the healing of so much that could be not needing of healing for this world. Page 164, we continue with Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et Amecha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה משלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Later in our Torah portion, we read of the striking image of the pillar of cloud. This pillar of cloud would arise, indicating to the Israelites when it was time to stop on their journey and when it was time to move forward. Maybe you have something like that in your car, where if the car in front of you moves, it says it beeps at you, right? So sort of the ancient way of doing that. I'm reminded of a time when I was driving once. I was really anxious to get home, but there was terrible fog. And I kept wondering, should I stop? Should I keep going? Life is all full of those moments. Sometimes we need to stop. We need to just be with ourselves for a little bit. Our joy, our grief, our discomfort, our peace, even when others might prefer that we keep moving. Dear God, on this Shabbat, may we have patience for ourselves, for paying attention to our own indicators, our clouds, telling us when it's time to stay put and when it's time to move, and patience for all those around us. If they are, may we be able to let them know what we need and remind one another that even pillars of clouds will shift over time. In the midst of this busy season with simchas galore, graduations and weddings and moving ons and parties and bar and bat mitzvahs, amongst lots of other things, it can feel like we are just hopping from one big moment to another, and it feels really good here in the nice, cool AC to have a few moments to be with ourselves, to be with this community, to be what created us all, a few moments to pray in silence.
לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי ויהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך יהיו לרצון imrei fi ve'yoni bi yehidu leratson imrei fi ve'yon libi lefanecha Adonai Tzuri Adonai Tzuri v'gohali Adonai Tzuri Adonai Tzuri v'gohali. Go inside your heart, just be. Go inside your heart and see what it wants, what it needs, what it yearns when you breathe. Go inside your heart and see. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be true. May they be acceptable to you, oh my rock, and my redeemer.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. So we learn at the very beginning of a book called Pirkei Avot, which is the ethics of our ancestors. We learn the following. It says, be patient in the administration of justice, raise many disciples, and make a fence around the Torah. 3 very important lessons, but I want to zoom in on the last one. This very last piece, the idea that we are supposed to draw or keep a fence around Torah. What does this mean? Well, what does a fence do? It protects. It keeps what's supposed to be kept in, and what's supposed to be out. It keeps the dog in the yard and the deer out of the tomato plants. It separates your property from your neighbors and makes sure that the kids don't leave the playground at recess. But the rabbis take it a step further. The commentator Rambam says that it's not only meant to keep something in or out, but he phrases this line that it means, and you shall guard my guarding. So it guards the most precious thing to us, Torah. And Torah is the thing that is actually intended to guard us. So you should guard my guarding. So for our B'nai Mitzvah students tomorrow, when we hand you Torah, Yale specifically, when Rabbi Karen hands you Torah, what she'll probably tell you, not to spoil anything, is that Torah is intended to be our spiritual GPS. Rabbi Matt uses different words, so not to spoil a surprise. But it's our spiritual GPS. It's the thing that guides us through the twists and turns of life, and that we hold with us at each stop along the way. It represents tradition. It represents our story. It's the laws and standards of Jewish life. It represents what's always been. But sometimes that fence around Torah deserves to be questioned in a way. And in this week's Torah portion, we see just that. we see this concept challenged, and I think for good reason. Near the end of the Torah portion, there comes a time when Miriam and Aaron, Moses' siblings, speak out against a choice he's made in his life, his marriage to a non-Israelite woman. The essence of this is that because she isn't an Israelite, she's an outsider. She's outside that fence of tradition, outside the fence of what is the norm. She looks different and isn't representative of who they wanted Moses to marry, of the family that they wanted Moses to have. So if we fast forward beyond biblical times, we know in Judaism this fence has been in place in many aspects of Jewish life and in the many identities that put some inside the fence and some outside of the fence. Like the wife of Moses, some as insiders and some as outsiders. These fences, some of them are the literal. It's the mechitza, the divider of prayer space between men and women in an Orthodox synagogue. Or the wall that divides at the Western Wall, the men and women side of the wall. And some of the fences are metaphorical. They're the laws in many Jewish communities that prevent unions such as interfaith marriages. What we as progressive, and I say that as religiously progressive, Jews not only allow for, but actually try to embody, is what it means to widen, to bend, and at times to even break the fence for the sake of inclusivity, for equality, for opportunity, and for progress. And for a very long time in the Reform movement, this fence existed around none other than the rabbinate. It was an exclusive club for men. And even though it's sometimes hard to imagine today here, as our bima is filled with women at any one given time, the idea not so long ago of a woman leading prayer, sharing words from the pulpit, or reading Torah was essentially unheard of. You might remember that a few months ago, we celebrated the 100th anniversary of the first bat mitzvah. And now again, this month, we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the ordination of a woman named Sally Priesand, the first woman publicly ordained as a rabbi. Sally Priesand in 1963, as a teenager, wrote to Hebrew Union College to see if they would consider accepting her into rabbinical school. They let her know through a series of letters that they had not yet ordained a woman rabbi, but she was welcome to enter their program for Jewish education. She did, and then she went on and eventually entered the rabbinic program. In an interview with Rabbi Elka Abramson that was printed in the book called A Sacred Calling, Rabbi Priesand spoke about being the first female in an all-male seminary program. She tells stories of class beginning by the professor saying, "Gentleman and lady," the feeling of having to work harder than everyone else, and the plethora of unwelcomed comments and names at every stage of the journey. Of course, Rabbi Priesand was not the first female Jewish leader. Prior to her was Rabbi Regina Jonas, the woman ordained in Europe in a private ceremony after not being welcomed into seminary. And we can track an essence of female leadership generations back, dating to a woman named Beruria, the daughter and wife of Talmudic sages, who the sources tell us was an accomplished scholar in herself. And what we learn is that each generation has stood on the shoulders of those who come before them. Pushing the boundaries and paving a path is largely dependent on the trailblazers that have already pushed that metaphorical fence wider and more open than it was before. Though it was not something that she was striving for, Rabbi Priesand explains that her goal was not to be groundbreaking. It was simply to be a rabbi. She was just the beginning of a line of firsts. After her came the first Reconstructionist female rabbi, and conservative and Orthodox, much later. The first Israeli ordained rabbi, the first woman rabbi to serve in a congregation with a child, the first woman rabbi to lead a large congregation as a senior rabbi, and the list goes on. And the opening of this fence to welcome women into the rabbinate has only elevated Jewish life. Women rabbis have excelled as thought leaders, organization strategists, major figures in American Jewish life. They often bring a different perspective than their male counterparts, have worked to expand the language of our liturgy and prayer, and created new rituals that mark the importance in all of our lives. But above all, by opening the fence to women, and more than that, to individuals of all gender identities to serve as rabbis, it ensures that each child, each person, is able to see someone who looks like them on the bima of what they can become. So if we go back to this week's Torah portion, it's made clear that there's no room for exclusivity in our community. There's no room for fences or ceilings or walls. The story continues by telling us that God was angry that Miriam and Aaron would criticize Moses for this. So God descends upon them in a cloud. And when the cloud departs, Miriam is stricken with tzara'at, with that scaly skin disease that's associated with punishment for slander. The Torah tells us that Miriam was shut out of the camp for 7 days, and the people did not march on until Miriam was readmitted. So to recover from the illness brought on by her actions, and also for the community to move on, Miriam, not Moses and not Moses' wife, had to go outside the very fence of the tradition, of the status quo, and the exclusivity that she was enforcing. What we learn is that a fence isn't always for the keeping of what's in and keeping what's out. But that fence rather bends, expands, and breaks open at the times that it needs to most, for the sake of humanity and for the sake of justice. But more than that, when we say to make a fence around Torah, that fence has to bend not to make sure that each law is followed exactly as it was written thousands of years ago, but to ensure that it follows the ethics and the values of what Torah stands for today. And that's exactly what happened with the ordination of Rabbi Sally Present. With each step, as she received a letter that allowed her to apply, she received a letter of acceptance, and eventually her ordination at the Plum Street Synagogue in Cincinnati, the fence only expanded and has continued open to allow future generations of rabbis, cantors, and Jewish leaders to thrive. Shabbat Shalom.
And because we like to put our words into action, whether you knew it or not, almost all of the pieces that our cantorial intern Gabe Snyder chose for tonight are pieces that were written by women. So whether you knew it or not this piece, we actually don't know who wrote this, but a traditional piece. We're going to turn back in our prayer books, page 282. I'm going to invite you to rise for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום
At this point in our service, we come to the words of the mourner's Kaddish. These words honor the lives of those in our families and our communities who we have lost. As part of honoring their memories, if you hear the name of someone you are remembering and you're so inclined, we invite you to rise. The conclusion of all of the names I will share will invite the entire congregation to rise, so we say Kaddish together. In the period of Shiva, the last 7 days, we remember Johnny West, husband of Cornelia West. We are saddened to announce the passing of Joan Gale, wife of the late Sidney, mother of Carolyn and Ginny and Fred, grandmother of David and Jessica, Stephen and Liza, Julie and Matt, Jeffrey and Michelle, and Stephen and Jen, great-grandmother of 10. And we are saddened to announce the passing of Gladys Sands, wife of the late Edward, mother of Barbara and Dr. David Worth and Carol Sands, grandmother of Dr. Richard and Michelle, James and Julia and Elizabeth, great-grandmother of Lawrence, Gregory, and Chloe. In the period of Shloshim, the 30 days of mourning, we remember Ronald Flaxman, Martin Halpern, Miriam Weinstein, Joseph Grabowski, and David Baum. And on their anniversary of passing this Shabbat, their yahrzeit, we remember Seal Adelman, Amy S. Alexander, Harold Beitman, Alan Bernstein, Hilda Biber, Charles Borinsky, Alfred H. Brundage, Bertha Bush, Ralph Cohen, Leroy Cohen, Ira Y. Copen, Richard J. Ehrlich, Abraham Erdheim, Benjamin Fierstein, Martin S. Fisher, Abraham Fishman, Rabbi Solomon Foster, David J. Frischman, Irving Gale, Phyllis S. Getzo, Diane M. Goldberg, Ben Golden, Adele Goldfein, George Goldstein, Dora Feld-Gauss, Rose Grossman, Molly Hannick, Jean Hoffman, Leonard H. Howard, Dr. George Caden, Amy Stern Canetta, David Ronald Katz, Louis Klinger, Samuel Koski, Tracy Metzger, Hortense Meyerowitz, Samuel Meyerowitz, Fred Raymond Mavshin, Isaac Pett, Albert Rocklin, Bertha Rochmiel, Martin Rose, Marion Jaffe Rubin, Jean F. Schoenwalter, Inga Sender, Morris Siegel, Sidney Silpy, Etta Simon, Lillian F. Sirota, Martha Spector, Daniel Straver, Benita Turk, Loretta Waldman, Mary Wiseman, Lisa Wiener, Isabel Wiener, and Keith Wiener. Zecher Tzadik Livracha, may each of their memories ever be for a blessing. Page 294, in honor of all of their memories, we rise together to share words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'elmad divrach hurtei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. V'agalau v'zman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivarach leolam olamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudsha brichu. Ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amin ram be'elma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim. Aleinu v'el kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Osei shalom bimromav, huyasei shalom. Aleinu v'el kol Yisrael, v'imru Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to people everywhere. As together we say,
Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Be sure. Are Ginny and Fred here? They are? Hi. So it's strange for me to call you out like this because I know that you are here because Ginny, your mom, died this week, 102 years old. And in the midst of sadness, today is also your 55th wedding anniversary. So balancing all of the complications of the cycle of life, I want to just wish you a happy anniversary. I know that your claim to fame, or one of your claims to fame, is that you were the last couple to get married in the sanctuary in Newark in front of our Ark doors. So if you think about it, you were sort of the last there and carried the tradition here. So my heart is with you in this time of life, which has obviously very sad parts, but also happy parts. So happy anniversary, if I can wish you that, and to many, many happy ones. And I hope that all those memories of your mom and for your whole family will help to make this time a little bit sweeter. So happy anniversary to you. I also want to say that after Shabbat services, which will be over in just a couple of moments, we have our final art show of the year. You may know that several people in our congregation work very hard to ensure that our art gallery, which is this way when you leave the chapel, and our own Gail Wayman, who is an artist in her own right, creates posters about the shows, and this is a show of all the posters about the shows, a meta get. So we have members of our own congregation whose work is being shown: Audrey Bartner, Linda Levi, Emmy Hines, Julie Levine, Amy Charmatz, Bill Foster, and Carol Smith. And so when you come and see us at Oneg for a little rugelach and something to eat and a chance to wish each other a Shabbat Shalom, make sure you take some time to look at our art gallery. You will not be sorry. Second to last thing. I very rarely will encourage you to use electronics on Shabbat, but in your order of worship, there is a QR code. And for members of our community, and we are a pilot congregation in something called the Belonging Survey. We are trying to learn how much people feel like they belong here at TBJ. And so if you are a member of TBJ, if you're visiting us, tell us you feel like you belong, but you can't take the survey. I'm sorry. But take some time. If you need me to help explain it, I'm happy to do that. But please, we are really working to get as much data as we can to help make this place a place where you feel like you belong even more. Tomorrow morning, we are very excited because we have two wonderful young people being called to Torah to take it on, as Rabbi Leah promised, to pass it on. So we're going to invite up Yael Block, and I'll say her fancy name here, Isabella Rodriguez, to join us on the bima. And as you do, Cantor Gabe is going to give you a Kiddush cup. This is a Kiddush cup for you to keep. It is a gift from our congregation's Brotherhood and Women's Association. We hope that the sweetness found in it will be felt today, this entire weekend, and for many, many happy days to come. Mazel tov.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon kinchoanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reshit Gihu Yom Tehillah Ulamikra Kodesh Zecher Latzia Yitrayim Kibanu B'charta Ve'otanu Kidashta Mikol Ha'amim V'Shabbat Kodshecha
Baruch atah Adonai, Mikadesh HaShabbat.
Let's do the motzi ready.
Baruch atah
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
All right, everybody gets a challah to take home.
Nice start.
Be good.
Yes, you can take that.
Wait, take this with you too.
With you too.
There you go.
Now close.
All right. Sorry. One of the things that I'm told every week is that I look really happy while I'm here, and I am really happy. I'm really happy to be in this space with all of you. Shabbat is a really wonderful time, and it brings me a lot of joy to sing with all of you and to be in community like this. We read in our Psalms, in Psalm 100, Ivdu et Adonai b'simcha bo'u lefanav bir nana. Come into God's presence with joy and with song. So I invite us to sing together, Ivdu et Adonai b'simcha. Ivdu et Adonai b'simcha, Ivdu et Adonai b'simcha, bo lefanav bir nana, lefanav bir nana. Ivdu et Adonai b'simcha, Ivdu et Adonai b'simcha, bo lefanav bir nana, lefanav bir nana. Yadadai, 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 Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha, Ivdu et Adonai b'simcha, bo lefanav bir nana, lefanav bir nana. Ivdu et Adonai b'simcha, Ivdu et Adonai b'simcha, bo lefanav bir nana, lefanav bir nana.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.